So we're waiting for Michael to tap us in, right? Here we go.
Yeah, he usually gives us a 10-second in count. But we're live, so I guess we'll say happy Friday, everybody, or happy Friday, however that works. As you can see, Mike Myers has joined us, and we are waiting for the arrival of Dr. Upton. So he has a relatively new youngster that he's got to handle. So he told us he would connect whenever he's able to, and we'll accommodate that.
Yeah, this guy, he has a 4-month-old kid.
Right. Yeah, 4.5 on the new son, and he's got a 3-year-old daughter.
But wait, it gets worse than that, Dave. If it's 2 o'clock here, that means in the UK it's what, 8 o'clock?
That's correct.
Oh my goodness. So he's going to be trying to juggle babies and this all at the same time.
Right. In a conversation that he and I had a day or two ago, he described the event as BBC Dad. I guess the Brits will know what that means, but apparently it means you use the television as a babysitter while you go off and do dad stuff.
Loving it.
Well, Good Friday. As you know, this is just a thrilling moment for us. It was a coup and a half for us to sign up Dr. Upton to join us. We found out a few weeks ago that Scott wouldn't be available for the show last week. That was why we brought Michael Smyer in. And when we originally found this out, I guess it was a month ago or so, that before we realized Scott was going to be gone, he said, who do you want to get on to participate with you? And he pointed to Mike, and he pointed to Michael and some other people in the company, and all of those were great, viable suggestions. But I thought, you know, what the heck, let's just try something. So I kicked off a note to Dr. Upton saying, hey, here's what we do, and here's some links, check it out. And Mike does his thing. And within a day, he'd responded. He said, I'd love to, but, and I was crestfallen. But then I read the rest of the message, unavailable the date you presented, but I am available the week after or the week after that. So this is the week after. And what do I see here? Oh, I see all kinds of wonky notes turning up on the thing. So Dave, I guess in the meantime, go ahead, Mike.
You need to have like your Dr. Upton's only going to be on for 5 minutes questions.
Right.
And he's only going to be on for 50. I know how babies are, dude.
All right, so I'm going to throw up the contact info here real quick. Really, I will. I'm so jealous that you are able to successfully use OBS, because it's so much easier to switch through the various screen share things we do than this horrible little nightmare.
Well, Dave, it takes technical skill, my friend.
Actually, I have it. I've got OBS, and Michael and I got together. He helped me out, as he helps you sometimes, to get it working. But yeah, I know, like you need it. You said, Michael, I need help, and he came over, and it was just your chance to teach him something.
Pretty much.
What is going on with here? Oh, I see. See, this is why I hate this thing. There's always the, what's it doing now? That's an old pilot joke. There are 3 things that you're likely to hear on a cockpit voice recorder, and one of them is, what's it doing now? So if you'd like to get in touch with us, because you didn't get your question in today, you have an unrelated question, whatever the reason that you can't, don't, or won't post it on there, or because we didn't get to it, by all means, email us. We love this stuff. We roundtable it. We research it. So you can get me at daver@totalsem.com, or my personal email, drushtx@yahoo. Mike is available at michaelm@totalsem.com. And Scott, who's working behind the scenes along with Michael Smyer, Scott J @totalsem.com. And now that you see the pattern, first name, last initial, you probably know how to get in touch with Michael Smyer. If you're gaming, catch me on stream as drushtx. Mike is Senor Pepe. And I don't think you have to have a tilde over the N, Enye. And you can get Scott at Scarhart. And I don't see Eben here yet, so let me do the weekly specials. Last 2 days of the week left for this thing. So we have a 50% off all A+, Net Plus Total Tester and Total Tester /Sims bundle, and Security Plus Total Tester. I know it's confusing, but you'll figure it out. Go to totalsem.com and look it up. And when you check out, use the code MMLive921. That was the beginning of the week. It's good through this Sunday evening. No, I don't know if it's midnight cutoff our time or somebody else's time. But Oh, what do you got going on this weekend, Mike, before we start looking at questions?
I'm actually pretty excited. Some of the museums have opened back up here in Houston. So you have to go through kind of like an IKEA thing. And, you have to dip yourself in antiviral solution, which
Sure.
is, I guess, convenient. But there's a De Goya exhibit if you're a Spanish nut like I am. I'm very much excited to see that. So that's and of course working on Security Plus because that's all we do here at Total Seminars is work 24/7 for you.
Well, I heard you were ahead of the game on it, so almost done, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Has anyone ever said that?
It's done when it's done.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'm going to scroll back through questions. We got 60 people online now. Thank you, guys. Lots of new faces. Hello, Patricia Grace. Good to see you. What do you mean you don't have a pie yet? Justin Kinsey at 1:38, 20 minutes before the show started. Are they on yet? So yes, we are. Ludwig, I tried to pronounce your name when I saw it come up on the list, and I'm afraid that I will be completely unsuccessful. So I'm going to stick with Ludwig and go with that.
Don't you like Mozart?
Who doesn't? Man, if we didn't have this many people, I'd do a Mozart joke, but it takes too long.
Oh, wait, hold on. Ascurd is starting with his crazy questions. Ascurd, we live for you, man. Here you go,
And
Dave. How do I get started with pi?
Wow. What's the time mark on that, Mike?
What time is it? It's 2:06.
No. What was the time? Okay, on Ascurd's question?
I don't know.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
You actually expect me to be a good second banana here. I'll try.
I start now, huh? Yeah, I can do this. Okay. Well, how do I get started on a pie? I got two answers for you. It's quick and painless. Number one, buy one. So a million sources. You can get them from Amazon and eBay and Newark.com and Adafruit, and then turn it on and make it work. Now, how do you do that? That's a slightly longer answer, but if you'll go back to, I think around July 3rd in the archives, here comes Eben, I have a full description of how to buy it and how to get it started up for the first time, and that's the answer. Watch what we've done before. All right, we're watching the back channel here. I see Eben connecting and doing all the things that it has to happen with Zoom. God, I hate Zoom. And
good evening.
Welcome everyone, Dr. Eben Upton, inventor of the Raspberry Pi, co-founder of the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and a list of credentials that if we could go through them all, it would take the entire 2-hour stream that we have here. So I will just say welcome, well-credentialed man.
Thank you very much. As advertised, it is Friday night here in the UK. I am on dad duty. I am surrounded by toys, including this, which looks like a coronavirus. I don't know why we got our kids a little tiny coronavirus, but
right, we got to get our children trained.
And we will see how we get on.
It's amazing how the capitalists just go right in for that COVID virus and start making toys.
So we have somebody next door enjoying Disney Plus's finest. So we'll see how we get on.
Eben, let me introduce you to Mike Myers. He is the president of our company, Total Seminars, senior author, 1 million books and credentials behind him as well. He wanted to join
Dave's boss
out here.
Hello,
ahead,
well-credentialed man.
More well-credentialed.
Yes, and he is also a wealthy entrepreneur and yacht owner. Actually, you don't own a yacht these days, do you?
My name is LMK Fed Millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht.
I keep getting sent yacht brochures. Somebody hasn't got the memo that we're a not-for-profit.
Once you get a Wikipedia article, man,
the yacht brochures don't stop coming. That's it.
They've got you in crosshairs.
They're discounted. They tend to be rental. Discounted only $100,000 a week rather than $120,000 a week. In bits of the world I can't fly to at the moment. So it's exciting.
Very nice. Well, tell you what, let me get things started. I have one question for you just to kind of lay some groundwork for everybody here. Man, we got a lot of folks here. You have really attracted a great deal of attention. Oh, and again, thank you for this time. I really appreciate it. We had no right to reach for the top dog. I started out with,
Ask the man a question.
Yeah.
Stop groveling.
Okay, well, let me ask you this quick question then. You guys have a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, but the two big, well, there's a pun there I didn't plan for. You got Raspberry Pi Trading and you have the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Can you kind of fill everybody in a little bit, the difference and how that all goes?
Right. Okay. So the Raspberry Pi Foundation is a UK charity that we set up in 2008. So it's nearly 12 years old. And it exists to get people, young people in particular, excited about computing and about this thing we call digital making sometimes, which is kind of electronics. And it's always intended to do this by making a product, by making a computer, because our diagnosis of why aren't people interested anymore is why weren't people interested anymore in computing? Why weren't we seeing young people applying to university to read computing? Our diagnosis was that they had been interested because of 8-bit computers back in the 1980s, and that when those machines went away, our students went away. And so the idea was, if we make a computer that's affordable and powerful and programmable, then perhaps it's kind of a cargo cult, right? I mean, it slightly has elements of the building the big plane out of wood, and in the hope the cargo will come. And in cargo, in our case, was undergraduate computer science applicants. We built our big wooden plane and launched in 2012. And the cargo came, kids came back. Now, Raspberry Pi Trading is the wholly owned trading subsidiary of the Raspberry Pi Foundation. And it's while I founded the Raspberry Pi Foundation, the thing I run is Raspberry Pi Trading, which is a subsidiary. Why do we have a subsidiary? Some of it's about risk isolation. So, running a computer company is a risky organization, and charities are not supposed to take commercial levels of risk, at least in the UK. And so putting it in a separate limited entity makes a lot of sense. And we try to run it prudently, but it is, trading is always risky, right? So that's helpful. It also helps because it allows us to separate the concerns of two chief executives. It allows us to have two chief executives. So I'm the chief executive of Raspberry Pi Foundation, Raspberry Trading. I should go steal Philip's job. I am the chief executive of Raspberry Pi Trading. The foundation has its own chief executive, who's a gentleman called Philip Colligan, who is an amazing guy. He's actually been with us 5 years, incredibly. 5 years this past July. And he has a passion for getting young people involved in this kind of stuff. He's able to do things I couldn't do. And so having two organizations, one of which makes computers and makes money and gives that money to its shareholder. It's just a regular shareholding relationship. Right? There's nothing special about Raspberry Pi Trading. We're a commercial company. We just happen to be owned by a foundation. So we give them money. And they also go and get money from other places. So they do government contracts, and they get private philanthropy and corporate philanthropy, and they do amazing things. They run two of the world's largest networks of after-school clubs,
Really?
Code Club and Coder Dojo, which were originally separate organizations which were merged with the foundation.
Okay.
They run a thing called the National Centre for Computing Education, which is a government program in the UK to train teachers primarily. It has a number of strands, but the biggest one is training teachers to teach computing better. We have a fantastic curriculum now in the UK. When we started Raspberry Pi, our curriculum in the UK was terrible. It was basically PowerPoint every year for 12 years. And kids get bored. It's incredible, right? We actually managed to make messing about with computers the least popular subject in school by turning it into a repeated grind of learning how to do PowerPoint. And so that curriculum was scrapped by our previous government and replaced with a much more rigorous curriculum. But what was missing for quite a while was a robust system for teaching teachers to teach the curriculum. And that's what the National Centre does. The foundation is one of 3 partners that won a government tender a couple of years ago to run this. And that's going very well. So the foundation does all sorts of exciting, and it creates a lot of free educational resources as well. So it has a lot of strands. It itself has a lot of pies with fingers in. But I don't need to worry about that because we have somebody amazing running it.
Right. Very good. Well, thank you very much. That cleared up some things that I misunderstood as well. So
yeah,
excellent.
It's not obvious to people. It's interesting. There's a whole group of people to whom it's not obvious that we're a commercial company. And there's a whole bunch of people to whom it's not obvious we're a charity. So if you go look on our front page, I would encourage your viewers to go look on our front page because it has a button marked donate. And that's a great place for people to go and donate money to us. We think we are a good place for your philanthropy. But one of the things that donate button does is it reminds people that we're a charity. We sell all these computers, and people can forget that in the end we are a not-for-profit, and we're trying to do good in the world.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. Dave,
So,
I got to ask a question. I'm just completely intrigued. And this actually leads into a question we've already got from one of the viewers. The size of the Raspberry Pi, where'd that come from?
It's the size of a credit card. It's almost exactly. It's actually not the size of a credit card. It's about a couple of mil in each direction away, but it is the size of a credit card. Why is it that size? It's that size because small is cheap. Ultimately, not many atoms cost money, and also because we have an idea of robustness. The four things we were looking for, we want to build our little cargo cult computer company, were small, robust, programmable, affordable, and fun. Because
it is all those things.
It is.
Great, they're all very things. And robust, kind of smallness is robust. You make a thing that's this big, so if it's a PCB, pick up a PC motherboard and shove that into your school bag 100 times. It's not going to work at the end of it. A Raspberry Pi is designed to survive that sort of mistreatment, and being small is an important part of that.
Excellent. I was wondering I'd always wondered, there's so many sizes out there for different types of things. I was always curious if that was a standard that you just pulled off the shelf, but
it isn't.
It is.
We made our own thing, and there's kind of PC 104 and stuff out there, and there are various ITX, the small ITX standards, some of the PC 104 form factor stuff. I know we ended up doing our own thing, and I'm glad we did actually. I think it was. It's somewhat emulated now. It's become a standard. It's an interesting illustration of the fact if you do something with enough self-belief and success, then after a while it becomes a standard. So the 26 pin header that's on Raspberry Pi 1 and then the 40 pin header that's on subsequent devices has become a standard that you see all over the place. I remember seeing a narrowband IoT radio kit in 2014, and we're kind of wandering into the company in Cambridge that was developing it. I was like, that 26 pin header there, that looks very familiar. They're like, yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi standard header. So it's kind of fun. Of course, we kind of regularly mess with people's minds a little bit by tweaking the form factor. So, we added 4 extra pins for PoE with 3+. We swapped the position of the Ethernet jack up to the top right-hand corner from the bottom right-hand corner for Pi 4, and swapped the HDMI connector for 2 micro HDMI. So we do mess. We aren't actually that religious about our own. The only real thing we're religious about is the 4 mounting holes and the position of the 40 pin header relative to those mounting holes, because that's our expansion card standard.
For the stacking kind of things.
Yeah, that's the stacking. So we kind of have to be religious about that, but kind of everything else pretty much in the design's on the table to be moved around.
And that must be in large part where that standard comes from, because not only do all of your competitors do a 40 pin IO, it's the same pin out, it's the same voltage, it's the same everything. So
same voltage, although you'll find some people out there in the world who really are 3 volts. As people go down process nodes, it actually gets very, very hard to do 3v3.
Right.
So I know that there are compatible boards out in the wild that actually only have 3 volt IO, and you get a nasty surprise if you put the wrong voltage on.
I'm looking through some of the questions here.
We have so many questions coming in. I'm trying to help here, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you drive this.
No, go ahead.
I got another question.
Go.
Was it the ARM processor that made the light bulb go over your head to make the Raspberry Pi, or was it the motivation for the fun, compact, inexpensive, and then you searched for the processor?
Yeah, so the latter. So it was we searched for, and we built a lot of things that don't have ARM processors in. So we built a thing. If you search for Raspberry Pi 2006 edition, you'll find something built on Veroboard with an Atmel processor in it. It's a lot more like the same processor using an Arduino. So that's the thing.
And I don't know if everybody knows. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we built a version that actually booted into Python. So we built a version that had a C Python.
What?
Support of C Python
cool.
proprietary DSP.
Okay.
A chip called 2727, which is the successor of the predecessor to a chip called 2763, which in another life is also known as 2835, which is the chip in Raspberry Pi 1.
Right.
So
I mean, for me, Raspberry Pi started with the Raspberry Pi B. I
Yes.
don't know anything before that.
Well, there are prototypes that never made it they never made it, and the most notable of them is the C Python port. So the Raspberry Pi has a DSP in there called the VPU. A lot of people know about. It's actually the first thing that boots in the system. So it's actually.
Why didn't I bring? I should have. I have plenty laying around. I should have had one here, and I would be opening up while you're talking because
it's the system management processor. It actually serves for us largely as our system management processor now. So it does like the Intel management engine on a PC. It does power and clocks and various safety related activities. But it's actually a full-featured, very powerful DSP, and you can compile C for it. And so what we had was, in prehistory, there was a chip called 2727, Video Core 3. So most Raspberry Pis are built on Video Core 4. Raspberry Pi 4 is built on Video Core 6. But back in prehistory, there was a platform called Video Core 3 and a chip called 2727. And what we had was a Raspberry Pi, which was a port, which basically ran a port of the C Python Python virtual machine that ran on the VPU. There was no ARM processor. It booted into Python like a Commodore 64 boots into BASIC. And it gave you a command, it gave you a prompt, and it gave you text on the screen, and you could write programs. And it was actually a lot of fun. And it's the device that gave us the name Raspberry Pi. So Pi for Python, right? Raspberry. Get my text on. So Raspberry is the I used to be much better at that.
I'm just having fun listening to your accent. I feel like I'm talking to the late Terry Jones here. I mean,
oh, nice.
Thank God I've watched a lot of QI over here in the States, so you know.
We had a device that booted into Python. It was called Raspberry Pi because raspberries fruit named computer companies like Apricot and Acorn and guys like that, and another one somewhere.
I was going to do the joke, but it's such low-hanging fruit.
I forget. Pi is Python, and we thought the Pi letter Pi would be a good logo. Of course, we ended up with a picture of a raspberry as our logo. But anyway. By the time that's when we incorporated the foundation. I said the foundation was 12 years old. 2008, that's what I had in my hands when we incorporated the foundation. But what we came to realize was that this has come to the point about the ARM processor, is that you're pushing water uphill if you have a proprietary processor architecture and a closed source proprietary platform. You're writing your own text editor and your own SD card drivers and your own Windows system. You're kind of pushing enormous amounts of water uphill for a little team.
Sure.
And what happened to us in about 2010 was we got an equivalent chip. This is 2763, subsequently 2835. No, 2835 is just 2763 in a different package. And this had the VPU and video core, and had video core 4 this time, so a better video core. And it could drive 1080, could do 1080 video where we could only do 720 video before, but critically it had an ARM processor. And that let us run Linux. And that let us leverage all of that effort, all of the effort that's in the Linux kernel, all the effort that's in the GNU user land, all the effort that's in all the applications that have been built on top of that. We could leverage that for our own needs. That's what unlocked Raspberry Pi as a concept, and by the time we talked publicly about it in 2011, that's what I'm holding in my hand. And by the time we launch in 2012, February the 29th, that's the product we're selling, not a machine that boots into Python.
Right. Okay, well, you've triggered about 14 questions in me. Some I had noted down and some not. I'm going to ask you to veer off into the weeds for just a second on one of them, and then I've got a question from the feed here. Can you talk a little bit about Vulkan and the Vulkan driver and the progress you guys are making?
Yes. Okay. So, I'm a 3D engineer a long time ago. So the video core, one of the developers of the Video Core 4 graphics architecture in Raspberry Pi, and which is the ancestor of what's in Raspberry Pi 4. So I like 3D graphics cores. I was a representative, one of Broadcom's representatives on the Kronos standards body for a long time, so I know a lot of people at Kronos.
Wow.
We've always done OpenGL on Raspberry Pi, OpenGL-ES, so which is the kind of mobile variant of OpenGL. Initially with a very proprietary driver, and then gradually a chap came to work for me for a little while called Eric Anholt, who developed we released the documentation for from Broadcom. We released the documentation for Video Core 4 about 2014. And then a chap who had been working at Intel in Portland called Eric Anholt came to work for me, and he developed an open graphics driver based on Mesa, based on the Mesa Galleon kind of open graphics world for Video Core 4. And then when we did Raspberry Pi 4, he did the same thing for Video Core 5/6. It's kind of the same. Video Core 5 and 6 is kind of the same. And so that's what we ship today. So today we ship a heavily modified derivative of Eric's GLES, well GL's through GLES driver. We have GLES 3.1 conformant, I think, 3.1 conformant. But in the meantime, graphics has moved on. There's a sort of trend around APIs like Metal for APIs that put less abstraction between you and the hardware. Slightly different, simpler abstraction between you and the hardware. And Vulkan is the standards-based version of that. That's Vulkan is the Kronos kind of GLES Next driver. A driver standard. It's quite popular, very popular in Android. And it's kind of clearly the future of standards-based graphics. And very keen to have it on my platform. And we've been working with a company called Igalia, based in Spain. They've been doing maintaining Eric's driver, maintaining and moving Eric's driver forward, his GL driver. About a year ago, they started doing Vulkan. And we're very close now, actually. We're within 20 conformance test failures out of some tens of thousands. Wow. It's really good. So there's been a focus on features. I guess there'll be a focus next year on performance, but it does already run a number of things, including the Vulkan ports of Quake 1, Quake 2, and Quake 3 very, very well. It's a lovely, lovely product. I mean, amazing team at Igalia. Really, Iago and the team are really very, they're great guys. So I'm hoping to do a performance test submission before the end of the year, which would be a big milestone for us, I think. Wow. And this is entirely open graphics stack, right? This is an entirely open development.
So at some point, the new upcoming version of Half-Life, I'll be able to play on my Pi.
Then yes, you absolutely. When Half-Life 3, I can guarantee you when Half-Life 3 comes out.
I was kidding.
You will be able to run it.
I was joking. Really?
I'm joking as well.
Oh, okay. You got me real. For a minute out there, I was like, okay.
Well, it's not so much I'm joking as I think it's an easy promise to make, because it's a promise you will never get asked to deliver.
Bingo. Fair enough. Hey, Dave, we do have a lot of questions here. We should jump on some of these.
Okay.
It's like I got one in Pepper and like Dr. Pepper and Chinese Democracy, when they're like, yeah, we'll give everyone Dr. Pepper when Chinese Democracy comes out.
Sure.
And then they end up having to give people Dr. Pepper.
Okay, here's a question, and this is kind of related to something that I was doing. I've ordered your architecture book. I have not received it, so I can't get to read it. But a related question to that then, time mark for everybody who's watching, 2:17. Ludwig asks, Dr. Upton, how the processor works inside, same as regular one, Intel Ryzen, and where is it located? So I assume it's your standard Harvard architecture.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Cortex A72. If we're talking about Raspberry Pi 4, it's an ARM Cortex A72 64-bit ARM V8 processor. It was a state of the art, I suppose, 3 or 4 years ago. It was the shiniest thing you could buy from ARM 3 or 4 years ago. Everyone's always shipping the thing that was state of the art 3 or 4 years ago, because it takes 3 or 4 years to make a chip. So yeah, it's a great processor actually. Really quite pleased with it. Historically, we ship the kind of in order cores. So ARM traditionally very strong in very power efficient in-order cores. And A53, which is the core we shipped in 3 and 3 Plus, fantastic core, Cambridge developed, really, really strong core. What's happened recently is ARM have got very good at doing out-of-order cores, kind of modern cores. You know, modern, I mean, well, Pentium Pro, but better than that. But you know, they've got very good at doing high performance cores, and A72 is one of those. It's a nice, it was a good core to work with. It's been a great core to work with, actually. I'm kind of very pleased with A72. One of the great things is it's really well implemented, A72. You know, you can, you know, A72s from different companies, you know, any given core from different companies, depending on the competence of the people who put the core together, can have very different behavior in terms of their performance and their power consumption. This is a really well implemented A72. I know the guys who did it. They're very, very, very strong team. So it's been good to work with. Good.
Are you guys excited about the merger buyout of NVIDIA ARM, or don't care, or don't know?
It's kind of don't care, don't know, don't know, don't care. I mean, you know, it could follow a number of different trajectories. I think I'm not running around with my hair on fire. Well,
fair enough.
Well, you know, who could tell?
Yeah, I know. So we've all got beards in common, but the hair thing is definitely kind of you two. So.
You know.
But we're all extremely attractive, so it's okay.
That's it. That's the important thing. We're all hello. What's up? Hello. What's going on, kid? I've got a friend. Can I introduce a friend?
I was hoping, by all means.
Yeah, I've got a team member. Oh, come here, team member.
Oh my.
Hi, you got. Hello.
Hello. You said her name yesterday. Aspen.
Afra. This is Afra. APHRA. Now, has something happened that you would like me to help you with?
I want another vampirina.
She wants another vampirina.
Well,
I probably need something for parents who have Disney Plus. I will see you.
Step away. We'll find a question or two. I'm going to throw a quick answer out. Somebody asked about, can you stick a pie in a traditional case and run an NAS? Sure. People stick pies, everything. I've seen them taped to the back of televisions, in shoe boxes and cigar boxes and Altoid boxes. Yeah, knock yourself out.
So Dave, I saw a question where someone was asking about being able to strap up a traditional x86 video card. Did you see that one?
I didn't see it, but not happening yet, because the GPIO standard as it is for the Raspberry Pi doesn't have much in common except for one of the serial port pins and 3 of the standard interface pins, I2S, and there's a PWM. But no, there's nothing like NVMe or PCIe lanes or anything like that in there.
Yeah, I mean, there is no open bus concept with the Raspberry Pi.
Right.
You take what they give you, unless you can plug it into the I/O port, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There was a couple more. There's another one that really at 2:04, Elbow asked, Dr. Upton, let's just say this: what criterion process for a new Pi version? That could be an interesting question.
Yeah.
So Elbow, we saw the question, but like we knew we'd be going between babies here, so it's all cool. Hey, I'll tell you what, why don't we take advantage of this right now, Dave?
There we go.
Maybe we're doing giveaways today. And
cool.
If you don't mind, we're going to do a giveaway right now, just real quick, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, guys, so here's the criteria for giveaways. The first person who types the right answer in the live chat that I see, whoever that is wins a, what is it, Dave? Help me.
It's a Raspberry Pi 4 kit. It's 2 GB model. It's got the power supply and the SD card and the video cable, everything they need except for a monitor and keyboard and mouse.
Okay, great. All right, so here's our first big question. So Dr. Upton, you got to keep in mind, a lot of these folks are fairly new to Raspberry, so we do ask more basic questions. So you guys ready? Everybody ready? Get on the keyboard. Here we go. Let me say it. I want to say it just right. I'm all nervous because you're on, so I'm going to take if I make a silly mistake. Hold on. No, I got it right here. You guys ready? Here we go. For the first Raspberry Pi we're giving away today, what is the name of the CPU architecture based on all Raspberry Pis? The CPU, what's the name of the architecture that, oh goodness sakes. I guess that was a little easy of a question, huh? All right, Fantastic. Andre, my buddy in Belgium.
Oh, De Goyer.
Yeah, Andre, man, we know you well. All right, Andre, first of all, round of applause for winning that. Dude, we know we can ship them out to the EU. We made sure we could do that before we even started this thing. Congratulations, Andre. All you're going to have to do is send an email to kathyy@totalseb.com. You've won before, so I think you know how to do that. Send Kathy an email, and we will have the first giveaway Raspberry Pi shipped to you, sir. But you owe me a beer when I come over to the EU, man. All right, congratulations.
I never heard anything good about Belgian beers. Belgian beers.
Oh,
Am I thinking about
Hold
that?
on, Dave. So people from Wales are called what? The Welsh, right? People from France.
I was going to say there are other things. I'm Welsh, so
I know. And people from France are called the French. So people from Belgium are called the Belch, right? I'm here all week.
I feel my stream.
This is just like be mean to the Belgians. Little.
Andre is a longtime listener, and he gives as good as he gets.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You know, I didn't realize that you were from Wales, and so I'm pleased. My wife shares your heritage, and you have a factory there in New South Wales, yeah?
In Old South Wales.
Oh, okay. South Wales.
Yeah, New South Wales, it would be a little further away.
It would be a little further away, yeah.
You know, it's a wonderful. I forget which comedy show it was in the UK had a thing where it had a sketch. It opened with a captain and like a junior seaman standing on a beach, a desolate beach, and the captain saying to the young guy, you know what this place reminds me of? And the guy's like, "Don't say it, sir." He's like, "What this reminds me of?" No, go on, say it. It's like South Wales, sir. Yes, I think we should call this New South Wales. Anyway, yeah, we have a factory in South Wales, which is about 30 miles from where I was born, where my family is from. It's where most Raspberry Pis are made now. The vast majority of Raspberry Pis are made.
Oh, wow. Okay, I thought you were only making zeros there. So
no, we make everything there, almost everything. I think we don't make the PoE hat. Yeah, I think the Power over Ethernet hat is made exclusively in China. But I think everything else we make some of in Wales, and there are some products like 3 Plus and 4 that are made exclusively in Wales.
Right. Well, it's great for the home economy. It's great for quality control.
Yeah, it was great. It was great during the pandemic as well. You know, it was just like they were very, very good. You know, and one of the things, of course, is they're very automated, because if you want to build products like Raspberry Pi in the UK, you need to have a lot of automation because wages are pretty high. What that means is that people are not, I saw this thing on the news where they were talking about we can have 1 meter social distancing or 2 meter social distancing. They're saying, well, 1 meter will help you help factories get back in business. And I'm like, if you're running a British factory and your people are 1 meter apart, you're doing it wrong. You know, you're going to So this is a factory where, obviously they had to put mitigations in, and they've done an incredible job there. But they started from a starting point of having a lot of automation, and therefore it wasn't the case that they had people kind of all pushed up against each other.
That's amazing how your experience leads from theoretical to hands-on. I'm going to build a computer to I'm building and managing a factory. I'm building and managing a charitable foundation. Your breadth is incredible.
Well, what's great about the factory, of course, the factory is Sony, right? So that's our contract manufacturer is Sony. So you're kind of leaning on all of that amazing skill that Sony have. It's amazing. That one of the lovely things about working on Raspberry Pi is that kind of soup to nuts kind of NAND to Tetris. You know, you can fiddle with the gates and the chips. I mean, there are 2836, 2837 have gate level E-codes, or gate level modifications to them that I designed, and also I get to run the business. So it's kind of quite. I don't think anyone really often gets that amount of, not. One of the sad things, of course, is when you have something that size, there's nothing that I'm the best guy at. I at least get to play. I at least get to annoy the people at each of those levels.
Why isn't this happening?
Why isn't this thing that I vaguely understand happening? That's fun.
Nice. Hey, Dave, we got some more questions rolling in here.
Go get it.
This one's actually fascinating.
Okay.
Dr. Upton, I'm doing a pet project to build an apocalypse-proof PC using a Raspberry Pi.
Mm-hmm.
do you have any advice on how to prolong, protect, and get the most out of that PC?
Okay. Well, I mean, they are very durable. They are very durable. I think you've got to think about which bits are not going to. Well, you've got to supply power to the device. You've got to get input and output. Input is interesting because you have electromechanical components, switches, keys, which are less durable than purely electronic components. Output's interesting because monitors are hard and complicated. So I think you probably want to focus on focus on things around the Pi. I think it's unlikely.
Peripherals. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. And then you've got the SD card, of course. So you have flash storage, which has limited lifespan for a bunch of definitions of the word lifespan. So I think there's a bunch of different things. I would think reducing the number of moving parts is probably a good idea. So no spinning media. I'm thinking about storage. Maybe a USB 3 SSD instead of SD card might be a little more durable. I mean, SD card is actually pretty good as long as you buy a good one. But SSDs obviously tend to be more durable. Yeah, I mean, you could go for something. You could go for kind of exotic I/O. So e-ink. You want to go for something really exotic, you go for e-ink I/O, I suppose. It would be a horrible experience, but it would be lower power consumption and conceivably more durable than LCD. Input power, I'm thinking a lot about solar, I suppose, and power conditioning.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go with something long term there, right? So
yeah, I was talking to somebody today actually about how bad you get these boxes that condition, for camping, condition solar power. You tend to have the 12-volt car cigarette lighter. It's the funny thing about standards, right? The car cigarette lighter is a power delivery standard. It's a 12-volt power delivery standard. So you get up with a box that kind of pulls in power from the solar panel and then spits out 5 volts over USB and maybe 12 volts over a car cigarette light. I was talking to my friend actually about how terrible most of these are, and saying, I wonder if we should do one of those, because they're awful, right? But yeah, so I think it's all about the peripherals and about power and display and input and storage.
sounds good. I was waiting for you to say EMP shielding, but
Yeah,
we have another question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been put in a metal box, right?
Exactly. Faraday cage. Pardon. All right. Sorry. Could I mount a Raspberry Pi inside another PC and use it exclusively to run an NAS?
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's a lovely project. Yeah, I mean, NAS. I have a grudge against the NAS industry, right? Because once I had a NAS lose all of my stuff I'd ever done. I put all my stuff that I'd ever done, I put it on a NAS, and I'm like, it'll be fine. And of course, what happened was both. Well, no. Like, the thing got itself into some horrible state. I don't even think the drives failed. I think the thing just got itself into a weird state. And what was stored on the drives was in some proprietary format. I couldn't do anything about it. There was no utility out there for understanding what the hell these bits were. So I lost everything.
We all have that story. We all have that story.
Yeah, the world's tiniest violin. But I quite like it now that people can build NASs. Now we've got the USB 3 and gigabit Ethernet and 11 AC wireless. People can build really capable NASs out of a Raspberry Pi 4 and a couple of USB 3 drives, rate them together. And if God forbid something bad happens, well, the things that are on those drives basically is X, right? So you can recover it.
But you don't have any type of link like a SATA or anything like that?
No, we never put SATA on there. I think once you've got USB 3 these days, it's kind of a little bit less relevant than it was. I mean, SATA's still great for big spinning Rust, but for the kinds of things most people use, USB 3 is pretty good. USB 3 and
yeah, I'm afraid we're showing our generational difference here, because I still use a crap load of spinning media around here.
What's the thing on UAS?
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
USB attached SCSI. So if you're using rather than SSD will generally operate in two modes. USB SSD will operate in two modes. It can either pretend to be a USB key stick, so mass storage device mode, but you could also do UAS, where you're basically running SCSI over USB.
I'm just taking notes for later research here.
Yeah, so you got us in trouble here, Evan. What happens now is Mike gets hold of a new technology, he looks it up, he likes it, and next thing you know, we're going to convert the whole office to UAS now instead of our spinners.
I don't know about that, young man.
Okay.
Hey, for everybody, we're getting a number of project questions. Let me push a little bit about the website. So raspberrypi.org has a forums subsection, and one of the subsections within that is projects. So if you want to collaborate with folks, present your project, work on some other existing projects, answer questions about projects, great place to go.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you for the plug. Can we run through some questions of people, because remember, I may turn into a public.
Yes. Another question for Dr. Upton. Do Pis fall into any ATX standard sizes or compatible with I think we answered this one.
Yeah, yes and no, not really. They're Pi.
Yeah, it's credit card. You literally used a credit card as your starting point.
Yeah, starting point, then jiggled it a bit.
Dave, jump on in here. I know there's a lot of questions,
I'm
but
picking
they're all
one
spread
here
out.
out of a pile that I've copied and pasted here. I want really good ones since he doesn't have much time left.
Here's one. Do you recommend any particular book to get started with a Pi?
I do. I recommend the Raspberry Pi Official Beginner's Guide.
Say it again.
Raspberry Pi, I think it's called Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide. It's available from Raspberry Pi Press, which is our in-house publishing team. The nice thing about it, it's very cost effective. You actually find it bundled if you buy the desktop kit. So if in the US you went to a Micro Center and you bought the desktop kit, then you get a free copy of that. It's actually available for free online as a PDF if you don't want to give us any money. Or if you want to try before you buy, go to raspberrypi.org. Perhaps I will put a URL into the chat for you.
If you get an opportunity, feel free, but otherwise, these folks are pretty good at searching, and I don't think we need to be overly concerned. What's hilarious is that Alice Pazzi, who is from Italy, is laughing at us because the British accent versus the American accent, and she's having trouble going back and forth. Hang on, I lost a question.
I got one real quick.
Go, Dave.
You have a pair of Raspberry Pis on the International Space Station, and I saw in today's blog post some more news related to development in that area. But wonder if you could go through a little bit what was involved in getting the certifications and approvals to get that thing on the ISS.
Yeah. So there's a saying apparently in space circles, when the paperwork is heavier than the payload, then it's time to fly. And suddenly the paperwork for that was heavier than the payload. A chap called Jonathan Bell, who's one of our earliest employees and a massive space geek, hammered that thing through in about 2014. And the resulting project is called AstroPi. It debuted with the first British astronaut, Tim Peake, going up, and kids can write software and have it run on the space station. We've run thousands, maybe tens of thousands of pieces of software on the station. Now we have two AstroPi units. Each of them has a Raspberry Pi, a Sense Hat, which is our sort of general purpose grid of LEDs, bunch of sensors, little joystick, accessory, and a camera. One of them has the regular camera, one of them has the infrared camera. And people can design experiments and send them up. And it's been amazing actually, because there's always this question, what was our concern when we started doing Raspberry Pi? It was that perhaps nobody cared about computers anymore, and that it was a generational thing, like my father with cars. So my grandfather could drive a car, and my dad can take a car apart and put it back together again, and I can drive a car. And there's a one generation spike of enthusiasm for anything. And the question was there a one generation spike of enthusiasm for computing in the 1980s? It turns out no. So we've got vast numbers of, back to the cargo cult, we have vast numbers of young people applying to study computer science at the university in Cambridge, which was the main goal. The other thing is, like, I was mad about space when I was a kid, right? In the 1980s, stayed up to watch shuttle launches, you know, really into it. Had a big collection of space books, bought the 15th anniversary, the 1984 by the 15th anniversary versions of all of the UK newspapers from 1969, from the moon landing, it's really into it. And the question is, are kids over space? Is space boring now? Space is not boring now. The number of kids who are interested in it is really heartening. Yeah, we flew 2 units. Of course, what's interesting is that when you say there are 2 on the International Space Station, those are the ones we know about. People fly them all the time to the station because they are rated, and because they've got a track record. And because they're cheap, low power consumption devices. They're very stable and robust. They're actually very, very robust in the kind of medium radiation environment of low Earth orbit. They don't really crash very much compared to a PC. And partly because the target is very small chips, so the amount of your crashability is determined by how much your cross section. You know, how likely are you to get whacked by some fast particle. And if you're small, you get away with it. So they fly to the station all the time, and actually, generally, we only find out when they come back down again. The people will say, "Hey, I flew a Pi to the station last year," and we're like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." And it comes down on a Dragon and then gets put in the display case somewhere.
So do you guys know that I've been on the ISS?
You've been on the ISS,
I have.
and how was it?
Well, I have a friend of mine who knew one of the astronauts, and so they're like, "Mike, give us a picture." So I emailed them a picture, and they emailed me back that they sent the picture up to the ISS, and I'm on an iPad.
Oh, that's very cool.
At the cupola.
Very nice. Okay.
So I have.
We occasionally get to look out.
Been to space. We have more questions. I want to hit. Sorry, did I cut you off?
Yeah, no, we occasionally get to look out of the cupola. We occasionally get to, there's a long extension cable, and occasionally, if you're lucky, you get a bit of looking out the window.
Nice.
People do wonderful earth science experiments with, particularly the infrared Pi is very good for earth science experiments.
That's
So we're getting a lot of people. First of all, everybody loved your daughter, and so lots of good feedback there. Kevin Lopez is asking, is there a record Raspberry Pi 4 cluster yet? What's the biggest cluster you've seen thus far?
Not super big yet, I think. I think there was a wave of units. I've seen, there's a company called Bitscope in Australia who make a sort of series of chassis called Bitscope Blade that you can plug these into. They've done some nice demonstrators in the sort of few hundred unit kind of range. We don't have anything on the scale of the kind of the biggest Pi 3 clusters were tens of thousands of units.
Good Lord, really?
Yeah. Because people are actually using them to model white box. If you're an organization that owns if your organization owns a large supercomputer, all sorts of interesting organizations own large supercomputers. You want to train your people to, and large supercomputers are just built out of white box PCs by and large, right? Bunch of PCs, switch fabric, Ethernet. And so you can build a model of that using Raspberry Pis. And actually, the interesting thing is that model displays lots of the same challenges in terms of writing good software for it that a real white box supercomputer would. And so if you want to train people to program for your big computer, the Raspberry Pi is quite a cost-effective, both in terms of capital cost and running cost as well, because we don't consume much electricity. So you did get people who had large supercomputers building Pi supercomputers for training purposes. I suspect we'll see that with Pi 4 in time. But right now, you do see a lot of them in racks, but they don't tend to be connected to supercomputers. They tend to be leased out as individual units. So there's a company, Mythic Beasts, run by friends of ours in Cambridge, who will lease you a Raspberry Pi 4 in the cloud by the second, in the same way that you might lease an AWS instance. So
right.
It's hilarious. I didn't even know anything like this.
Yeah,
so how are these Pis clustered through the Ethernet?
Yeah, usually. Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say that. Wow, no, we do something through the IO. You know, we do
Yeah, we tried that.
InfiniBand or something like that.
Very hard to be good old-fashioned Ethernet.
I presume
I
if
agree.
this hasn't changed, your website is run on a cluster of a massive number of Pis, or is that?
Probably not today. Quite often, and generally on launches, it tends to be run on Pis. It tends to be on x86 at the moment. It runs very well on Pis, but you tend to get there's historically been more available kind of elastic x86 hosting than there is elastic Pi hosting. On the other hand, as I just mentioned, Mythic, who are our host for a lot of things, will do elastic Pis now as well. So
Nice.
I suspect we because there's no technical barrier to it. It's just an organizational hassle to remember to do it. And
Sure.
so we only tend to do it as a stunt, for a month here, a month there. Works very well though.
So we've got the questions are rolling in now. Dr. Upton, will there be a 16 gigabyte Pi 4?
No plans at the moment. I think when we launched the 8 gigabyte one, we said we specified what would need to happen in order to have a 16. The SOC can address 16 gig, but there is no RAM package. There wasn't a RAM package when we launched the 4 gig unit. There wasn't an 8 gig package, but we knew there was one that was likely to appear at some point. Right now, you would need, for DRAM geeks, people would need to build an 8-die package out of 16 gigabit single channel X8 die.
All good?
He's muted. All right, guys, I'm gonna when he comes back, there are two kinds of.
One more. I'm going to go do one more, and then
Sure,
we're going
yeah.
to. And I think probably that determines the
That'll be fine.
pumpkin time.
Understood.
Okay.
All right, Dave, let's find a good question then if he's only going to do one
Yeah,
more.
I kind of got one here. Besides asking the tech questions about Pis and asking the usual tech questions about the trifecta courses, there are two other categories of questions that are frequently asked. One of them is, how do I find a job? Or
How do
I find a job? Or how many certificates should I get before I look for a job? And we all know the answer to that. I did have a question for him along those lines about how Raspberry Pis could lead to employment opportunities. And then this other topic, I'll ask this to him now that he's popped back in. Raspberry Pi in the world of IoT. So that's a general question. And then somebody has a very specific question. Do you use Raspberry Pi IoT processes in your home?
Oh yeah, personally, yes. So I use it for controlling various bits and pieces. There's a wonderful tool called Energini, which is a for whatever the 433, 468 megahertz thing for turning on and off AC power. So you can build kind of fun, simple home automation that way. So you can automate things that run off AC.
And do you use your garage door opener with a Raspberry Pi?
I do not have powered garage door opener. My garage.
You'd never make it in the U.S.
Yeah, that's it, right? I have an American amount of garage space, but it's agricultural buildings, and I need to rebuild them before I put powered garage doors in. I will do.
So, and someone else wanted to know what is your public IP address on the WAN side of your router?
We'll put a big banner up.
Fun story. We did once have somebody try to submit a program to the space station that tried to find.
Oh wow!
Tried to find out the globally routable IP address of our units on the space station. They don't have globally routable IPv4 addresses. There's like 3 or 4 levels of air gap between the stations.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But we looked at the code and it's like, this is calling a lot of network functions. Oh, now we see what it's doing. Oh, nice try, kid. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look for one more question for you, and then we'll turn you loose. Looking.
I've got some.
Go ahead, go get him. Give him your
Where to go?
Well, let's run until we run out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously, Emily, you just run to and say bye. You don't have to, just go. It's not a big deal.
Episode of Vampirina between us and bedtime.
Can you set up a Pi cluster with different models of Pi, or should they all be the same model?
You could set up a cluster with different models of Pi. People do sometimes because they have a lot of people have a trail of Pis that they've bought over the years. Generally, I think if you want to do it for real, then you probably want to buy lots of the same thing, particularly because obviously only the most recent Pis have real gigabit Ethernet. So we have kind of 3 generations of Ethernet speed. We have up to Pi 3, which is 100 megabit. We have Pi 3 Plus, which is gigabit, but attached to the Pi via USB 2. So this is kind of 300 megabit Ethernet. You know, you're limited by a thinner pipe. And then you have modern Pis that have real gigabit Ethernet. And so probably for clustering now, just buy Pi 4s.
Very good. So here's another one. This is John Lehman asking this question. I don't think there are any specific certifications. Keep in mind that we're big on certifications here that apply to the Pi itself, but a Pi can sure be a benefit for certifications. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually the interloper here. Dave has a series of live streams that he does for people to be able to pass things like the CompTIA A+ and Network Plus and Security Plus certifications. And because hardware and those prices are always a big deal, Dave has cornered that little market in helping people seeking certifications, but using a Raspberry Pi, and has been quite successful. But it is an interesting point, and I'm going to take a segue here. Have you considered doing Raspberry Pi certifications or anything like that? Would that fit into your vision?
Probably not. I don't think it's something we've looked at in detail. I think we have had some conversations with organizations that provide examination providers. Obviously, we are close to some examination providers. And this subject does come up a little bit from time to time, you know, vocational qualifications around the Pi. I think the interesting thing about the Pi is it's just a Linux box, right? And this is why it will apply to more generic certifications, right? Because it's a Linux box.
I think it's a hell of a lot more than a Linux box, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, I think you've created a wave. I think you are personally responsible for making millions of young people who had given up basic circuitry, who are now looking at things like, what is an LED? What is a capacitor? What is a resistor? Dave loves to use the Raspberry Pi as a PC. My personal passion on the Raspberry Pi is to create a simple, almost trivial interface that lights up the idea of electronics to a whole, and I think this is what you were talking about, that generational thing you were saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And, if I had to set up a Dr. Upton temple, it would be for that one function.
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? There's Raspberry Pi as a computer, and there's Raspberry Pi as an electronics platform. And I always thought of it as a computer when we launched it. I didn't want to put GPIO pins on it. That was Pete Lomas, my co-founder at the foundation, who did the hardware design for the board. And he said, well, you've got these GPIO pins, you should bring them out to a connector. And I'm like, really? But no one's going to do anything with it, right? And so it shows, you know, I thought people were going to write software for it. It's not a software. And so the interesting thing is Raspberry Pi, you know, we talk about physical computing, that coming together of the real world, the physical world, and, well, the software. And so some of the nicest examples are, for me, of Raspberry Pi use are where people are using it to stick sensors and actuators, the network, and local processing together. And, you know, my favorite example ever, Japanese chap who developed a cucumber sorter. For
a what?
A cucumber sorter. So Japanese spiny cucumbers need to be sorted at the farm into a bunch of different categories, depending on how straight they are, how long they are, how green they are, how many spines they have.
Really?
Yeah, no, loads of categories. It's an expert job. And his parents he's an engineer, his parents run a cucumber farm, and they're getting old. They don't like spending all day sorting cucumbers. And so he trains up a TensorFlow model, takes a Google TensorFlow model, trains it up to recognize cucumbers, classify them to a reasonable level of accuracy, not as good as someone who's been a Japanese person who's been classifying cucumbers their entire life, but pretty good. and builds a system with a conveyor belt and little flippers and a camera. And it looks at the cucumber and goes, yeah, that's a grade 6 cucumber. And when it goes past the grade 6 paddle, the grade 6 paddle goes bang, and it falls into the grade 6 bin. And of course, it's not perfect, but sorting out the 10% that it got wrong is a lot less time consuming than doing the classification yourself.
That's fascinating. I love that.
It's a good example of like you're connecting sensors, actuators, the network, so you can tell people what's going on, and local computing because you run your TensorFlow model locally. It's an emblematic example. Sold 35 million Raspberry Pis, and there's a lot of them doing that sort of thing.
How many?
35 million.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's incredible.
That's a lot of computers. That's good. Right?
Wow.
I'm pleased with that. And a lot of them are in industrial, they see enormous amounts of industrial use. The factory where we make Raspberry Pis is full of Raspberry Pis, not just the ones that are being used to make Raspberry Pis. So it's a closed loop.
That makes total sense. One of the first time I ever got really excited about the industrial usage is when I saw NEC was including a Raspberry Pi into their monitors.
Amazing vote of confidence from a company of that caliber.
Right.
And that's our compute module. So that's our industrial module, modularized version of Raspberry Pi. And yeah, that's been a very successful program.
Outstanding. Hey, I got a question from a regular of ours. If everybody's following along, it's at time mark 301 from Oz Kurd. He wants to know the difference between a Raspberry Pi and a microcontroller.
Ah, right. Okay. So Raspberry Pi is a computer. Where a microcontroller, so Raspberry Pi is kind of entire of itself, right? So the development approach for Raspberry Pi is very different from a microcontroller. So you can develop for a Raspberry Pi on a Raspberry Pi, where you would develop for a microcontroller on another computer. Now, microcontrollers have some advantages over Raspberry Pi. They often consume less power. Maybe they have some more specialized interfacing capabilities, particularly analog inputs, which is something we've always lacked. The flip side is they generally have 3 to 4 orders of magnitude less processing capability, 2 to 4 orders of magnitude less processing capacity, a lot less memory, generally can't drive a display. It's one of the main reasons why you can't develop on them. So they're not computers. They're not we are a microcomputer. The microcontroller is a microcontroller. And they're both interesting. And so, for example, the king probably of microcontroller boards is the Arduino. And people always say, oh, what's better, Raspberry Pi or Arduino? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
There are 90% of the things that you might want to do are obviously a Raspberry Pi thing or obviously an Arduino thing. There's a little 10% overlap. That's why we're good friends with Arduino. That's why we've been good friends with Arduino all these years, because there just isn't that much overlap. And in fact, what's the best platform to develop for the Arduino on? Raspberry Pi.
What? I don't understand.
Develop if you want to compile your code for the Arduino, do it on a Raspberry Pi. We are the most cost-effective host platform.
Never even thought about that. Huh. Interesting.
Our most popular topic among all of our viewers, besides techno questions, is a paraphrase of the following. At time mark 303, we have Dr. Quinn asks, somebody in the past asked Mr. Myers about finding jobs in the UK. Could I convey that to Dr. Upton? Maybe he can help them. So technical work, what kind of credentials do you need to get into the IT field, into organizations like Raspberry Pi trading, things like that? What do you think?
Well, okay, so I wouldn't know about the IT world. And that is a world where credentials obviously are very, very, very important. And I'm not an IT guy. But Raspberry Pi trading, what do we hire? People with electrical engineering and computer science backgrounds, people with maths backgrounds, probably the occasional errant physicist. This is the engineering team. We have a publishing company that hires people with magazine backgrounds and English backgrounds. And obviously we have a finance function that hires people who are accountants. But the technical side, we tend to hire people with CSE backgrounds. But not just anyone. We tend to hire people who have a hobbyist interest. What's the number one predictor of whether we find you interesting? Did you ever write a computer program you didn't have to? Did you ever write a computer program that you weren't paid to write? that you weren't getting an exam grade for, did you ever write a computer program? Because it's so much damn fun to write computer programs. And I do still.
Yeah. That very much fits in line with Mike's advice. Follow your passion. If you're passionate about this, if you want to write programs at home that you don't have to, if you want to solder, if you want to design a board and nobody's paying you to do that, you do it because you love it, because it's fun.
We do things because we love them and they're fun. I've heard about this work-life balance thing. It seems like a strange idea to me.
Absolutely.
He says at 9:10 on a Friday night.
All right, I've got an easy question for you here.
Wow.
This is from Kevin Lopez. Has Dr. Upton ever watched Mr. Robot? Could a Raspberry Pi really be used to hack in the way the show portrays it?
To the extent anything on Mr. Robot is feasible, but the Raspberry Pi elements are not the least feasible thing on Mr. Robot. Right? There is a wonderful Mr. Robot where somebody proposes using a Raspberry Pi, says, "Hey, something Raspberry Pi," and then the person they're talking to says, "Yeah, everyone knows what a Raspberry Pi is, so you know what." And I just like the idea that it's that we are so ubiquitous.
Well, I mean, I've seen. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But Dave, aren't you running Kali Linux on a Pi?
Sure.
Oh, it's a very popular platform for that.
Well, I mean, the only question I would have is, do you have support for the right kind of wireless NICs?
I believe we can. I believe you can put our NIC into promiscuous mode. Pretty sure you can.
Okay, just note.
And of course, these things should only be used for good.
Of course.
We only sell to white hat. If it's being sold to a hacker, we have a question. Are you a white hat hacker, though?
There you go.
Definitely. Look, I have my white hat.
All right, well, that dovetails really well with a question from Justin Kinsey. Dr. Upton, where would you like to see the Pi used in the future?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, in everything ever invented.
It's all good.
Here she is.
Oh, everybody loves her.
Woo!
Wow.
Hello, Afra. Where would I like to see it used? Everywhere. I'd like to see her using one. I'd like to see her using one. I mean, there's no better thing for an adorable small child. I don't know. You're just wiping your face paint on my nice jumper. There's no better thing for an adorable small child to do than to use Raspberry Pi to program computers. So look, I mean, we want to see it everywhere. It's a PC. I mean, that's the message about Raspberry Pi. It's always been the message. There's always been that it's a PC. As we've released more and more powerful Raspberry Pis, it's become a PC for more people. The Raspberry Pi 1 was a PC for a little tiny fraction of people who only needed a certain amount of power. And we've tuned into, if you think it's a bell curve, the desire for power, the desire for performance in a computer is a bell curve. Each generation tunes into the bell curve. The bell curve is drifting rightwards, but quite slowly. And Raspberry Pi is catching up with the bell curve. And so what happens is Raspberry Pi 4 is fascinating because it's the first product that goes past the median of the bell curve. And that's what's made it so exciting for so many people. Because hang on, this really is a desktop PC. And okay, it's not going to run at current top of the totally adorable. Probably me turning into a pumpkin. Yeah, that's the answer everywhere.
I do have to interject here for a moment. It must be a great disappointment to you that you have such a sad and unattractive child.
Yeah, just so ill-tempered. I mean, she's just ill-tempered and grumpy.
I kind of share that experience with the bell curve. Every time you come out with a new model, I am the first adopter. I run out, I get it, and say, oh my gosh, how could I have ever used this one? Why didn't they come out with this sooner? And I've enjoyed the 3B for as long as it's been out. And then the 4 came out, and I didn't want to be the first adopter this time. And then when I finally got it and I started doing things with it, all of my clusters have now been disconnected and being replaced with 4s, though obviously there's still a great place for the 3B.
Yeah. I mean, the 3B is our Commodore 64, right? The 3B is our best-selling, because it was in the market for so long. It's our prime product for over 2 years. At a point where we were selling very large numbers of units, it is the most popular Raspberry. It's actually on its own. We have to measure ourselves against 8-bit computers. 3 on its own has sold more than the Commodore 64 did. So over 12 million units.
Nice.
And it's a lovely product, but 4s hell of a step up.
So
Yes, it
we have another question running, and actually, I think I can answer this one for you. Ludwig is asking, will there be a new RP4 case with provision for a small case fan? I don't think anybody's selling a Raspberry Pi 4 case fan a Raspberry Pi case that doesn't have a fan. Dave, have you seen one?
So our case doesn't have a fan. The official case does not have a fan.
Yeah. You know, for us in the States, it's usually going to Amazon and just seeing what's
Yeah,
available.
yeah. A lot of,
Where past the necklace, Daddy?
you want to pass the necklace? Do you know where it is?
It's right on the table.
It's right on the table. That's the necklace, today's nursery product.
Oh, goody.
But that does
so-
bring up a good question. Are these fans necessary for?
It depends what you want to do. Depends what you want to do. I mean, if you want to run your Pi 4, and this has been true of Pi since Pi 2, I think. If you want to run your device flat out, particularly flat out in a case, you need a cooling solution. By flat out, I mean run all 4 cores. Run all 4 cores as hard as you can. Then yes, because these devices, like your mobile phone or like your laptop.
So, how many watts are you putting out if you're cranking that thing all the way on the floor?
About 6-ish. So not all that much, but enough that if it's sat in the case in a warm room, then eventually it will come to a temperature where we reduce the performance of the device in order to manage the thermal load.
I don't. If my smile is offending you, I apologize. I'm looking to buy an RTX 3090 graphics card, which is going to top out at north of 200 watts.
That's it. Like, when you have so many Molex connectors on your graphics card, and so yeah, it's you know, if you just want to use it as PC mode, I have one in front of my television there, and all through this hot summer we've had in the UK, it's just sat there in a case, and I use it as my PC with my TV, and it has no. It's never thermal throttled, regardless of what I'm doing. If I built Linux on all 4 cores in a loop, then it would throttle and the clock speed would drop a little bit in order to keep the temperature under control. So if you want to run the thing very hard, particularly if you want to overclock it, yes, you do need some sort of thermal solution. And historically, our strategy has been to allow the market to provide that solution. And so there are many, many passive solutions, which tend to be about attaching a big lump of metal one way or another to the, sometimes that lump of metal is the case to the processor, and then you have active solutions, which tend to be fan-based.
You have active solutions for a Raspberry Pi?
We personally don't have active solutions, but there are active solutions out there.
I'm going to have to look that up. That would be hilarious, you know. So I just strapped up a Raspberry Pi 4 for my home theater. Now, keep in mind, my home theater is basically just I still want to say Raspbian. What is the proper name now?
Raspberry Pi OS.
So, and I just strung that up and put a DRM capable version of Chromium on there, and I'm thrilled.
You're good, right?
Do you do that at your house?
I do that at my house. It's better than my Phi. There you are. It's good. It's better than my. That's what that one I was telling you about. It does. It's better than it's better than a lot of dedicated devices.
No, I did. I replaced a $600 x86 PC running Windows 10 with a Raspberry Pi 4, and thus far, maybe there might be some initial latency issues, but other than that, I'd probably blame that on my ISP, to be honest with you. I'm thrilled.
Okay, here's a question. This has kind of come up with in our group in the last couple of weeks. People often ask Mike where he goes to find out what's going on in the technology world today. And we recently, in fact, last week, published kind of Mike's list of where I get my tech news and my interesting news and hardware. So somebody wanted to ask where you get yours, assuming you have the time to go down the rabbit hole and read Reddit or anything like that. Do you have any favorite sources?
Maybe your top 2 or 3.
Let's see. Where do I go to find out about stuff? I'm a big fan of Phoronix, I have to say. I think Phoronix is a great. Is Phoronix.
Again?
It's a great site for your kind of open source stuff, particularly open source stuff on the graphics side.
Say it again, please.
Phoronics, Phoroniix. I'm turning into a pumpkin.
Oh, I know that one.
Yes, yeah, they're good. I'm turning into a pumpkin, guys. So I think I am probably going to have to bring this to a conclusion because somebody has been fantastic.
You have been very generous with your time and your knowledge. We thank you so very much for
Yes,
joining
thank
us.
you very much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity for both of us.
Everyone.
Thank you very much. Wave goodbye to the nice gentleman. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much for the
Guys,
opportunity.
stick around. We have lots of giveaways.
Right.
Okay, right. Take it easy and have a lovely day.
Thank you. We'll be
Thank you,
in
sir.
touch. Have a good day, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. I
That
feel
was
as
fun.
good. I feel as good after that as we felt after the Dr. Stanger visit.
I'm feeling good.
I
But
am
Dave,
blown away.
Dave, you
Mike,
need to give stuff away, my brother.
I was going to propose to you that you give something away.
Let's do our next giveaway. All right, you guys ready?
I'm
Okay,
ready.
everybody, fingers on the keyboards. Here we go. Once again, we're going to give away a Raspberry Pi 4 case, power supply, SD, the video connector, because that's that weird HDMI micro to regular HDMI.
Right.
Okay, here we go, kids. You ready? I'm going to give them another softball. Andre,
Okay.
you don't get to play again. Andre, I know once again I said you were from Belgium and not the Netherlands. I apologize for that, but it's stuck now, so you're in trouble. All right, so Andre, you can't play again. You can't play a second time. Here we go, guys. Hands on the keyboard. Here we go. What was the first Raspberry Pi called? What was the first Raspberry Pi? Go.
I'm watching. Come on, there's nothing going on here. You guys got to have this one.
Not the zero.
No. Raspberry Pi. Elbow, that was cheap. Go away.
There we go. Wait, Andrew Hutz. Raspberry Pi Model B. Do you see that one, Dave?
Yeah, okay. My list doesn't have Andrew first, but okay.
No. Your call, man. Call the ball.
I got Mo Shockey has the B. Somebody said A first. PV said A, but the B came out before the A.
Fair enough. All right. First of all, Mo Shockey. Let me make sure I'm saying the name right. Mo Shockey, congratulations to you. Dave is the judge here. I'm just the color commentator. Big round of applause to you, sir, for winning. You have won the next Raspberry Pi kit. In order for you to claim your kit, all you need to do is send an email to Kathy Yale. That is kathyy at totalstem.com. And for the rest of you thinking, oh, I'll just send her an email and pretend like I'm a winner, it doesn't work that way. Trust me. She double checks with us. So don't even bother trying. People try, Dave. They do.
I know. It's
I know. So, and you know what? I don't even blame them, but it's not, it won't work. So one more time, round of applause to Shockey. You have won the second of 4 giveaways we're going to be doing today.
Andrew, I'm sorry that you saw yours below. You know how this works. We've got different connectors and CDNs and things like that, and they come up out of different orders and in different places. So sorry about that.
Dave, you don't have to be fair. You're in charge. Okay. All right. So there was one other question.
Oscar, you were the first with a response, but it wasn't the right one. But as we said, we pick, it's our rules, and so it is. Yes, Michael.
The reason I keep, you think I should be looking in the screen all the time. I am getting input from all these different screens and people are, all right. Well, heck, Dave, that was fun. Let's do it again.
Was fun. So fun. You thinking about doing it again?
We got 4 of these to give away, mine.
2 down, 2 to go.
So I got to tell you, one of the things that I found interesting about what Dr. Eben was saying was when he was talking about the people he hires, I guess is the way to look at it.
Yeah.
He did say, well, computer science degree, But then he was like, do you write programs? That's all he asked. And as the measure of what success really was. I thought that was impressive.
Latest questions. That's very similar to a question you asked me when we interviewed, and you probably won't remember it because you always, you're all over the place depending on.
I was drinking.
But you asked me, what kind of router I had at home, what was its IP addresses, what was its firmware. And fortunately, I had answers to those things. And it's one of the reasons I'm still with you, I hope. But yeah, because I love that stuff. I have
that and you're cheap.
Yeah, there was no other applicants, so what the heck?
Yeah, I like your wife better than you, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
well, who doesn't?
But it is, well, I think that points to something that's important that people keep forgetting about. People look and they go on Indeed.com or whatever it is, and they look at these jobs and they pre-disqualify themselves from so many amazing opportunities. And the only thing, really, the only thing I look for is passion. I can get past a lot of education. I can get past a lot of experience if I know that the person in front of me is passionate. And the passion manifests through, they wrote code. It's probably not for total seminars, but I mean, for like, try to make an analogy to Raspberry Pi. They wrote code because it was fun, because it was passionate, because they got joy from it. And like when you were saying, I asked you what kind of router you have and things like that. I'm not really, it's not even a technical interview, Dave. It's a passion checker.
Yeah.
I think I just invented a term, but that is absolutely, for me, the big thing. So.
Asynchronous chat. I'm just reading through some of the questions.
And Dave, we have missed questions, brother.
No, we have tons, and we're not going to get to them all. We got 34 minutes left. We got 2 more giveaways and some other goodies, but we'll catch what we can. If you got an important question that you really needed an answer to, post it again down here at the bottom, because I'm working in the 3:22 time mark right now. As I take a page from Mike reading, just reading.
Yeah, I'm reading too. Ian Camacho, you guys know Ian works for us. Can verify this. My passion was examined thoroughly.
You got muted in saying that, Mike.
Am I muted now?
There you go. You're back.
Sorry. Raptor96 is asking, what are your personal favorite Pi projects? Dave?
Okay. Wow. My favorite is the one that I happen to be working on or studying at the moment. So let's go 2 ways. Like Mike, I have a media server that's up and running. I use it all the time, so that qualifies as a favorite. Likewise, I had a Pi-hole running for a long time, and then I forgot about it, gave up on it. And then when we got started again on this project, living and loving my Pi-hole these days. My current passion as of yesterday is a new project that we're going to start here. It's probably going to be a 4-week series where we're going to start with a simple installation of a LAMP server. It's an Apache server that's interactive. It's got a SQL database and it's got a PHP interpreter. So we start out real simple.
Dave, tell people what LAMP means.
Okay, so it's Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So we get all 4 of those.
It's a web server.
That's a LAMP server. We get all 4 of those elements working together.
And when those 4 elements work together, you have a good web server.
Right. So it's not just your static web server like Apache. It's the ability to look into databases. It can take input and do these things. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to veer away from that, and we're going to do simple electronics. We're going to talk about how to use a Raspberry Pi to light up a single color LED. And then we're going to expand that to a 3-color LED. And then we put those all together. I'm going to set up a web server. You're going to set up a web server where you can call that web server and control that LED. Now that seems like a simple thing, but that's the entry into how to control your house through a web server or through a Raspberry Pi. So we can build on that as we go. So that's my current project. Not that it's a difficult thing or an exciting thing for me to do to turn one of these on and set it up. My excitement comes from building it and covering it in such a way that I can teach it to you so you can do this and you can do it in a way that you understand it. So we'll go from there on it.
Cool.
That's my
thing.
thing.
We have a new viewer here who's asking a kind of a tangential question. I'd like to address it if you don't mind. This is from Herb Fedlion. Herb Fedlion, if you said anything before this, I don't see it. I bought a bundle on Amazon. Do you think I'm crazy for trying to read as many pages as I can to take as many certs as I can? Oh, Dave, why don't you take that one?
Look, you got to go at your own pace. If you are the type who can read 1,000 pages in a day and understand it, knock yourself out. But A plus, Mike says takes about 120 hours on average for people to read. So do you have the time to devote reading all this stuff and understanding it and doing that? What, 1,000? Well, okay, I'm making up a number, 1,000 pages a day. It'd be a day and a half to get through the A plus book at that rate. Yeah, you're probably a little bit crazy. You have to eat. You have a life. You've got some people. You've got to absorb it. To do this on a fast pace, I would say takes about 2 weeks. We teach A plus classes to insanely motivated people. Well, we get started at 8 o'clock in the morning and we run until 5 or 6 o'clock at night with a short lunch break. And then these folks go and grab a dinner break and then they read until sun up or whatever. And they study and they practice and they do labs in our labs and they come back and we'll do that for 9 days with them. And at the end of that 9 days, they're ready for the exam, but that's all they do. They eat, live, breathe, and sleep this stuff. So
they're also bleeding out of their ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but the other thing I'm going to add to what you just said,
please,
Herb Fedline, go get a job. Just come on. It's like, I'm going to get, 18 certifications and then the doors are going to open for me. They're not. Do not look at certifications as a way to open doors to get jobs. Don't do that. The only thing a certification is going to do for you, and it does this very well, by the way, is it puts your name at the top of the stack. That's all it's ever going to do for you. It opens the door so you can shove your foot in and then have a killer tech interview. So don't go spending a lot of money. Well, Mike, I have no experience. We've got 2 or 3 different videos already on how to get jobs in the IT world. They're carefully listed. Do a YouTube search at Total Seminars channel, and you can find those for yourself. But and Herb Fedline, I don't even know if this is what you're saying. So if I'm incorrect, please forgive me. But get a job. Here in the States, you go start working at Best Buy or something like that, and and then certifications are done on the nights and the weekends to get you to the next step. That's what it's all about. All right. So.
Good answer. I missed that focus of it.
No, what you said was important, Dave. I just wanted to add to it.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, it's 30. What do you say we give something else away? We got
all right.
And
I'm ready with my way too easy questions. And again, Dave, you get to you call the winner.
Okay, I'll arbitrate.
All right, you guys ready? The popular and arguably default, because keep in mind, you can, with most Raspberry Pis, you can put on a number of different Linux distros, okay? But arguably the default Linux distribution for Raspberry Pis used to be called Raspbian. What is it called today?
Go. I'm the first one watching. Nope, not quite Choco Taco. It comes from that, but that's not the name. We want the name of the current Linux distro that most people install on a Raspberry Pi. Nope, it's not Ubuntu.
This is hilarious. I see a number of winners, Dave.
Okay. Who's the first? I'll tell you who the first.
No. This is your call, man.
I got Andrew on this one. Andrew Hutz. I show him at 332.
No, come on. Andrew's already won today.
No, he claimed he won, but it was other person. No, Scott, clear that up. Did Andrew Hutz already win one? Because I thought he claimed the ARM answer, but didn't get it. Or the B answer, rather, the Raspberry Pi B. Let me look above this and see. Yeah, so Andrew, if you got it, we're kind of limiting people. Okay, Andrew did not win according to Scott.
I see a winner.
Making sure I didn't miss anybody.
I see a Fire Inside 21590. But Dave, look, everybody's YouTube live chat scrolls differently, so
right.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm looking for the Fire Inside on mine just to see where it came up.
I have a 332.
So I got Andrew Hutz, Raspberry Pi OS, and then
I got Andrew Hutz too, but yeah.
At a Fire Inside 21 blah 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 Raspberry Pi OS. So on my list, here, I'll take a picture. Andrew, you got it, buddy.
All right, it's Andrew Hutz.
Yeah, congratulations. So you know what to do. Contact Kathy Y, Kathyy at totalsim.com and let her know, and she will get everything arranged to have it shipped to you. A lot of good answers in here. People jump.
You know what? I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat.
Go.
We're gonna put in a 5th prize today because your readout and my readout is different.
Okay.
I'm going to also I'm adding a prize, and I'm going to give it to A Fire Inside 21590. A Fire Inside 21590. What a long name. We're also going to give you one too because Dave and I's readouts are different, and I'm feeling generous today. What can I
You were
say?
right next to each other. You arrived at the same time. It was just who's popped up first on the list. So cool.
All right. So A Fire Inside 21590. You two have won a Raspberry Pi 4 kit. All you have to do is contact Kathy Y at totalsim.com, and you know she's going to be contacting me. She goes, I thought you were only giving away 4. Now you're giving away 5. But we'll take care of that. Congratulations to you, sir or miss or ma'am. I'm from, in the southern United States, we say sir and ma'am, and I know it's very unpopular to say that, but it's like when you're in Munich and you say Grüß Gott, it's a cultural thing. But anyway, congratulations to you.
Oh, you're gonna have to explain that. I speak formal German, but I don't know that term. What is that?
Grüß Gott is a Bavarian term. It's a great God,
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. That makes sense. Like we used to say Gott in Himmel. Etch a sketch, Mark Harris.
Most of I can order a beer in like 30 different languages.
Right. Well, look, there's only 4 things you need to know when you're learning a new language. Please, thank you, where's the restroom, and another beer, please.
That's all you need. All right. Okay, so how are we doing? We got a little more time left here, and we got one more giveaway to do. So What the heck?
Yeah, thinking about 15 minutes or so. That's called a teaser, folks. That makes you stick around for 15 minutes if you want another shot. There's a few people fading away. Your odds are improving.
Hang on. Alan Duggan just asked a great question, Dave.
All right.
Mike, when you are interviewing people, do you rely on their job history or just rely on their knowledge of IT? Honestly, I look at their job history for problems, but I don't lean heavily on their job history. I lean on their knowledge of IT. I also lean on their ability to be normal people, to have decent communication skills, to show enthusiasm, to show passion. But no, Alan, I'll be honest with you. The only reason I look at your history, if I've got somebody, I need a very specific job, and I got to know that they have that skill set. I will look at the history, but most of the time when I'm looking at history, I'm looking at troubles. Somebody who is 45 years old who's telling me what they did in high school, that would be trouble. Somebody who has a 15-year gap in their job experience and doesn't explain why. Look, I've hired gals who are like, yeah, I was taking care of kids. Yeah, okay, that's fine, but tell me, So yeah, how's that for an answer and a half, Alan?
That's a good answer. Yeah, Justin, you're on Viasat. You don't have a prayer at these contests. What I would do is start putting in answers right now.
Arbitrarily. Oh, don't tell him that, Dave. He's going to do it.
You guys have been doing a really good job of not a lot of side talking while Dr. Upton was here. Thank you very much. That was very cool of you.
Now, Alan Duggan's telling me great answer, Mike. Yeah, it's not a great answer. It's just the truth.
Yeah, well,
Have I told you guys a story about, this is before you, Dave.
Everything is.
I had to hire a teacher. This is when we were doing a lot of instructor-led training, jumping on a plane and flying to places. And I had 2 people who were absolutely perfect. But the terrifying part is that they were literally identical in skill set. I mean, identical, like scary identical, okay? And literally, I was reduced to this. You ready? Here's the question I asked both of them.
Oh, okay. I know where this is going. Yeah, good.
In the original Star Trek, when the hippies took over the Enterprise, there was one hippie who kept singing this one song. He sang it like 4 or 5 times. In fact, Spock sang it with him once. What is the name of the song, and can you sing it? Now, of course, both of them knew the name of the song. I mean, come on. going down to Eden. How hard is this?
Yeah.
But only one guy could sing it all the way through. And I literally hired the person because I had no other criteria. No other criteria. How hilarious is that?
That
True
is
story.
hilarious. So what's he doing now? Star Trek trivia at Comic-Con?
Yeah, his name's Richard Smith, and he's making more money than God. So
Good.
yeah, he quit us about 12, 13 years ago and has moved on to bigger and better things.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's look for Dave. I'm scanning for questions here. You can scan with me, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at all kinds of interesting commentary. Not a lot of questions, but everybody's kind of analyzing the contest and how well they did and why they didn't. I like Andrew. In Camacho work, I broke a sweat just trying to type fast.
All right, here's a good question. This is 3:39 p.m. This is from a person called The Last Word. Did you guys see you can put 3CX on a Pi 4 and have your own personal PBX? The Last Word, I don't know what 3CX is. Dave, do you?
I don't, but I assume from the context that it's PBX management software or VoIP management software.
I would guess too. I got to tell you, I mean, when you're talking, when you look at a Pi 3 and the amount of firepower on that little ARM processor is impressive, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, okay, graphics suck in my opinion, but this is the other thing that cracks me up about the Pi 4, Dave. Why does it have 2 HDMI connections? I mean, obviously dual monitors, but
well, that's it, because everybody wants dual monitors. When I say everybody, all the serious hobbyists, and the only way to do it was you couldn't even do it through the USB port. There was some clever fellow who developed a method to steal from some of the GPIO pins and get a VGA monitor, but obviously it was the easiest way to go. Okay, so here I'm looking at the answer here. 3CX is an international VoIP IPBX software developer. So there you go. VoIP management software.
So The Last Word, we did not know that, but I'm always impressed by the capability of Raspberry Pi, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And one of the nice things about it is how portable the stuff that was written for other Linux boxes tends to be. You obviously have to change the instruction set, but that's the people with the passion. They're out there doing this at night, eating Cheetos and streaming.
For free. It always blows me away they do that. Okay, Dave, we got another great question.
Okay. So
this comes from Mark Harris. Hope I can re-ask a question. Of course you can, Mark. We miss questions all the time, and you're doing the right thing. Just re-ask. How do you overcome the catch-22 scenario of needing IT experience for a supposedly entry-level IT job?
This is one of Mike's favorite kind of questions. Go get it.
You'll go let me do it?
Absolutely. You're the man.
Mark, the number one reason people put a lot of BS on entry-level jobs is they want to scare off the wusses, okay? If you think, okay, let me rephrase that. Never, I've been drinking a lot of coffee here, guys. Never let a job that you feel that you can do well, never let the qualifications stop you from applying. We've done a few videos on getting jobs. One of them, I actually was showing that a lot of HR people will put BS into the entry-level positions to scare off what I call the wussy people. Look, if you think you can do the job, don't pre-guess. Don't pre-disqualify yourself. Let them disqualify you. Most entry-level jobs put a lot of goo in there to try to dissuade you from applying. They want serious people. They want passionate people. They want people who will sit in an interview and go, look, I don't have these 5 things you want, but by golly, I have the passion, I have the skill, I have the motivation, I have the intelligence to be able to do this job. So please, please, that's not a catch-22, Mark Harris. What you're looking at is a human resources standard methodology to keep people from applying for jobs because they want people who are full of passion, who are full of skill, who are full of desire, who are full of energy to take those jobs. So there is no catch-22. You like most of us have, you're in good company. Don't think you're unique here. We look at these jobs and we go, oh, okay, I don't have that. If it says entry level, go for it. You will be shocked at your success.
Guys, we're 4 for 5 on giveaways. Thank you, Mike. About 5 more minutes. We're going to do one more. So we'll take a few more questions here and then get geared up for the most challenging question that Mike has ever come up with in his career. So be ready. And the answer is not going to be 42. He always turns that down.
All right, Steve G wants to do the last giveaway. The problem is we do the last giveaway, we're gonna like everybody's
Right, I'm gonna watch. Yeah, I want a full compliment here toward the end. There's a post here by Justin Kinsey. He just kind of turned up on the radar at your last AMA, Mike, but he's very participatory. Thanks. And I have no idea what this is about. We've had to skip over some questions, but whatever you posted here, mamas and papas, that just gets my blood going well. I am such a huge mamas and papas fan. So fill that in. I'm curious what that's about. For a lot of different reasons. This sounds like Cryberry lawsuit.
This is dedicated to the one I love.
You know, don't get me started. We'll be singing the rest of the show.
Come on. Each night before you go to bed, my baby.
Nice. Yeah, you're reaching into the groove yard instead of the
I
top.
didn't carry a note in a bucket, Dave.
So color definition, he's posted a bunch of applause emoticons, but now he's HDMI and mini HDMI. So in fact, worse than that, or better than that, I guess on your perspective, all of the Raspberry Pis from the original B model through the 3B had a full-size HDMI connector. And then when the Raspberry Pi 4 came out, I've got one in reach, but it's in a box. There's a pair of not mini HDMIs, but micro HDMIs. So when the 4s came out, I went and bought one and I bought a kit, and they just bent me over for a pair of cables that had a micro connector on one side and a full size on the other. I paid an ungodly amount of money, but I just had to play with it that day. So, okay. But the next day I came home and went to one of the Chinese sites, AliExpress or something like that, and ordered 25 micro to full size adapters. And now I don't buy, now you just use regular HDMI cables. So time to upgrade.
Wait a minute, Dave. So we've got a viewer, Kyle, just Kyle, about to start my CompTIA 1001 in 30 minutes. Good Lord. Kyle, get off this channel, dude. Yeah, just relax. You got 30 minutes. You know, just do it, man. Good luck to you, brother.
Nah, I support you, what you're doing, Kyle. This is a place to come and get your mind off it and just talk about Pi stuff and whatever comes up. Your way to go. This is a good relax. Except for the pressure of the contest.
Well, the other problem is, of course, Choco Taco is saying, I went for a walk on a winter's day. I'd be safe and warm if I wasn't.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
A little top 40, but okay. That's a good one. That was the one Michael.
Oh, wait, Dave, here's a good question. Kevin Lopez. Did Dr. Upton explain why he went with a non-standard USB-C connection? Is it non-standard?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by non-standard. You switched, of course, from the micro for the same reasons I presume that everybody switches from the micro. They wear out eventually. You've got the quantum effect. It takes 3 times to get both sides right. I don't know. He did not explain it. It didn't come up. But I think it was a great call. I love it. I don't think anymore when I plug one in. It just goes in.
Yeah, Kevin, I didn't know this. In fact, Kevin, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I always thought it was a standard USB-C on the Pi 4, but okay. I'm not going to get in an argument with you because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about for power. The USB ports, the regular ones, they got a pair of USB 2s and a pair of USB 3s, and then for powering it, it's a USB micro.
All right.
Sorry, USB.
So the last word is asking, is the Pi 4 and the Pi 3 pretty much compatible?
I guess I don't know what you mean by compatible. The operating systems.
Well, wait, David, it asks, the last word says, like as far as Python 3 programs, hardware add-ons?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's just a Debian distro that's customized for the specific hardware on the Pi. But when you get, and of course, it's designed to run all of the things that are either scripted like Java, or if it's hardware dependent, then it's got to be written for the ARM.
Okay. I'm going to check out the USB-C on their Pi 4 now because.
Okay. Yeah, you know you've got one running.
I got to write notes or I'll forget. Isn't it funny in this world of technology, I still use envelopes to make quick
Tell you what's
notes?
funnier about that. I stole a page from your book. Look at this.
Oh, good. You literally, oh,
And it
you
looks like
euphemistically stole a page from my book. You didn't like take one of my books and rip a page
rip
out.
one clean out of there so I could write on it.
All right, so Andre's got it. I love the USB-C. Had a lot of trouble with the micro USB. Yeah, we all did. Dave, are you familiar with the joke about the USB superposition?
Yeah, quantum effect is what I called it, but you're right. Superposition is the
If
correct.
you guys get a chance, look up USB superposition. It's kind of funny. It basically means with the old USB-A connectors, you try to plug it in, it doesn't go in. Then you turn it 180 degrees and you plug it in, it still doesn't go in. But then you look at it and then you plug it in, it works. It's pretty hilarious. All right. So we have one more competition, eh?
Yeah, now's a good time. It's 10 till the end.
All right, we're getting close. We only have 10 more minutes. Oh, I'm out of questions.
Oh, that's right. No, wait a minute. We had 4. Okay, well, we'll make one up. We can do that.
I can do this. I have this capability.
And we're going to make you the moderator. You ask the question, you moderate, so there won't be
All
any-
right. Got to come up with, okay, all right.
And the question
Okay.
is not, what is
And
super?
we got a lot of new names in here. Peter
Yeah,
Victor.
we are.
I don't know this person. Welcome, Peter Victor. Glad to see you. I need a question. All right, let's go totally a different direction. You guys ready? And I am the final arbitrator of this, okay?
Agreed.
What is the fastest speed that you can see on USB? That's all I'm saying. What's the fastest speed you can see on USB? Don't read into it, just throw some numbers out there, guys. What is the fastest speed? What is the fastest? Nobody's got the right answer. Oh, wait, we do. Hold on. We got some right answers. We have a right answer. The right answer, according to me, is going to be this is color definition. 351 color def. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I think I just lied. No, color definition. You're very, very wrong. You had the right number, but the wrong units. I'll give you guys a clue. Do not type the letter M. Do not type that letter. Nobody has the right answer yet. I literally just gave it away.
That's okay with this many guessers.
All right, so I've got to have to give, for me, the winner is going to be EC, just EC. Edward Charlie, you're the first one who came up with 40 gigabits. I probably could have given you some hassle and said 40 gigabits per second, but I'm gonna be easy. Again, guys, remember, these competitions aren't fair. The only thing I can give in response to that is we give these competitions all the time. So I apologize if anybody's like, but I typed it. Yeah, sorry, man. You know, life isn't fair. Anyway, so I'm going to give it to EC, Dave, if you don't mind.
That sounds great.
All right.
I'm seeing that as well.
So EC, you're the winner. Big round of applause. And to me, oh God, what is that? Is that USB 3.2? I forget. But it's 40. You know, it's where the Thunderbolt starts kicking in.
It's not super speed. It's the one that comes
I'm
out.
rusty too. Anyway, EC, congratulations. You're the winner of the 5th Raspberry Pi system that we're giving away today. Big round of applause to you. All you have to do to get your prize is to send an email to Kathy Y, Kathy at totalsim.com and tell her you're the big winner. She'll double check with me and Dave Rush and Scott Jernigan are writing down everybody's names, so don't try to be clever. But congratulations to you guys. So, Dave, that's all I got to give it away. Wrap this up, man.
That's cool. Yeah, we got another 6 minutes. I'm going to answer a few more questions. If you want to bail, Mike, you're welcome to. Scott wanted to come in and say hi.
Yeah, Scott, jump in. We just got like 5 more minutes.
Yeah, let's keep all 3 of us here. It'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, again, guys, sorry, you know, I'd love to be fair on these prizes, but it's always so tricky and arbitrary. And hold on, Andrew Hutz yet again. Mike, I asked this just before the last giveaway. Are H.323 on port 1720 and SIP on port numbers use the same things?
This is related to that question you
Well,
asked.
Dave, this is RTP and SIP. Doesn't RTP use port 1720? I think it does.
Hey, Scott, welcome aboard.
Hey, how are you? Oh,
I'm good.
let me actually start my video. There we go.
Okay, that's all right. I saw your face.
Okay, so yeah, I got the answer for that one. The answer is that H.323 is an RTP, uses the RTP protocol. So remember, SIP actually creates the connection, but RTP is what actually transfer the audio or video data. So they are used at the same session, and they are two different levels of protocol that work together. You have to have, so Andrew Hutz, what I'd rather hear you say is RTP and SIP, and H.323 is an audio video. Isn't that, it's a compression, right?
Yes.
Am I lying? All right.
It's a transport protocol.
Okay. So hopefully, Andrew, I answered your question to your convenience. Justin Kinsey, I guess I have to go buy pie.
Pretty much.
Well, these things happen. I have another guest in mind for in a month or two, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll get another opportunity. Mike, you had a guest that's kind of faded into the woodwork. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You had somebody in mind from EC Council?
Yeah, I think that right now, I feel that this is my opinion. I don't have any basis of fact for this, but I'm under the impression that EC Council is really pushing back against CompTIA. I think that the success that CompTIA has seen on the Security Plus, CASP, CYSA Plus, and all those is starting to dig into them. And I think they're reticent because they see what we're doing as a CompTIA group, which is unfortunate because I really would have liked to have had, but that door closed in my face. And so I'm not going to push that going anymore.
Okay.
So I have a question.
There's a conversation going on here that I think I can clear up. The claim that the USB-C was non-standard, and then there's a follow-up here from Kevin Lopez, says a smart charger with an E-mark cable will incorrectly identify the Raspberry 4. Okay, let's call it a controversy if you want, but there was a design flaw. Somebody made a mistake that says the USB-C chargers from Apple that are supposed to auto-identify the device and how much current it needs and so forth, that was incorrectly incorporated into the first generation of Raspberry 4s. If you used a non-Apple or smart USB-C charger, just something to put out 5¼ volts and 3 amps, it worked fine. But if you put in one of those smart ones, then it didn't work. That has been resolved. They're on Raspberry Pi version 1.2 now, and it works fine with the smart charger. So I see what the original claim was. And if you've got that old one, you're still in the same boat. If you were one of the early adopters, you got to use a dumb charger. But all the current models work fine with smart chargers.
So I want to close with something I thought was absolutely fascinating, Dave.
Okay.
Dr. Upton had no interest in the I/O port.
Yeah.
He looked at it as a desktop system, which it is, and that it was another gentleman whose name escapes me. I'm sorry, but his Welsh accent was a little hard for me to understand.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
But that the I/O port was not part of his vision.
Yeah, and
I just think it's interesting.
It's like all those really interesting kind of things where, okay, fine, I'll put it in, I'll agree to it, and we'll see if I'm right, and I'm sure I am. And this is one where he missed the boat because we just use that thing like crazy.
I thought his presentation was
good,
awesome.
Mike, Scott.
I thought Dr. Upton was amazing, very fun. So happy that he could be on your show, man. It's like that was awesome.
Good guy.
The thing that I was most impressed, not say in awe of, but the thing that struck me the hardest is when we talked about or asked him about the video driver, the Vulcan driver, his eyes just lit up. It was his, that's what I am. I'm a 3D optical
That was
engineer.
cool.
And oh
Yeah,
man.
his eyes lit up and my eyes rolled back in my head. I did not know what you were talking about there. I apologize that, I'm just like, oh.
Hey, well, let's wind this thing up. It's 59. It's Friday night. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Hope those of you who won enjoy your pies. Those of you who didn't, don't give up. First of all, they're not expensive. Buy one. Keep an eye on these. We'll see what comes up in the future. Watch Mike shows for his giveaways and his knowledge. He will be back Monday, right? Mike, no surprise.
Yes, I'll be back Monday. Color definition, come back.
Very good. All right, everybody, you have a great weekend, and we'll get to do a three-way good night. So.
All right, here we go. And then followed by the stare.
Ready?
Oh, now we're doing it in waves.
Oh, that timed out beautifully. Bye, guys.
All right, guys, shut it down, Michael.